In a time when gods walked among mortals and the line between magic and reality blurred, heroes rose, brave souls destined to face impossible challenges, fierce monsters, and the very will of the gods themselves. These are the stories of daring quests, of battles fought with sword and cunning, and of hearts that dared to dream beyond the stars. Journey now into the enchanted world of Greek mythology, where every shadow holds a legend, every whisper tells a secret, and every hero's tale is a timeless adventure waiting to unfold. Let the saga begin, and prepare to be swept away on a voyage of wonder, courage, and the quest for glory. Long ago, when gods mingled with mortals and the earth was young under the breath of Olympus, heroes were born whose names would shine through the ages. This is the story of courage, magic, and fate, the heroic quests of mortals and demigods. In the age when the earth was young and the gods still walked the lands of men, the boundary between mortal and divine was a thread easily crossed. The skies were ruled by Zeus, king of Olympus, thundering on high with his mighty bolts, while the seas answered Poseidon's call, and the underworld lay shrouded in shadows beneath the earth. It was a time of magic and mystery, where fate was woven by the three Moirai, and heroes were born from mortal wombs touched by gods. Our story begins in the distant kingdom of Argos, where a shadowed prophecy hung heavy over the palace halls. King Acrisius, fearing the oracle's grim words that his grandson would be his doom, imprisoned his daughter Danae in a bronze tower, sealed away from the world and from all men. Yet no iron bars could imprison fate or the will of the gods. One night, as the tower's walls shimmered with moonlight, a golden rain descended, a vision of divinity. Zeus, mighty and ever watchful, cast his radiant form through the chamber and touched Danae. From this secret union came Perseus, a boy with the blood of gods in his veins and the heart of a mortal. Raised in humble guards' quarters, Perseus grew strong and wise, yet the shadow of danger loomed over him. King Polydectes, ruler of Seriphus, coveted Danae and sought to win her hand by removing the boy who stood in his way. He devised a cruel plan, a challenge that would doom any who undertook it. Perseus must bring the head of Medusa, the Gorgon whose gaze could turn flesh to stone. A monster not born of man but of curses and darkness, Medusa's serpentine locks writhed eternally, and her glance was a death sentence. Though fear clawed at his spirit, Perseus was no mere mortal. The gods favored him. Athena, with her silver aegis and wisdom, gifted him a polished shield, shining like a mirror to avert Medusa's deadly gaze. Hermes arrived with winged sandals, swift as the wind, lifting Perseus above mortal bounds. From Hades came the helmet of invisibility and a sword forged by the Cyclops, keen and unbreakable. Guided by divine aid and mortal courage, Perseus journeyed to the lair where the three Gorgons slept, terrible and eternal. Motionless as stone themselves except for their sister Medusa, whose heart beat with dreadful life. Using the shield to see without looking, Perseus struck true, severing Medusa's head in a swift, silent act that echoed through myth. From her blood sprang Pegasus, the winged stallion, a testament to beauty and power born from darkness. But the journey was not yet over. On the returning path, the fates entwined Perseus with Andromeda, a maiden chained to the jagged cliffs as sacrifice to a sea monstrosity unleashed by Poseidon's fury. With Medusa's head, Perseus turned the beast to stone, rescuing Andromeda and fulfilling a destiny greater than the king's curse. Meanwhile, far from Argos in the city of Athens, a mighty tale unfolded. Theseus, son of King Aegeus and a woman of humble means, grew to manhood with a burning desire to end his city's suffering. Athens lived shackled under the oppression of King Minos of Crete, who demanded every 9 years the blood tribute of 7 youths and 7 maidens, sent into a labyrinthine prison to be consumed by the Minotaur, a creature half man, half bull, born of divine wrath and mortal punishment. Theseus, armed with fatherly gifts and his own unyielding heart, vowed to end this cruel pact. The night before fate would lead him to Crete, he was visited by Ariadne, daughter of Minos, whose love was a torch in the labyrinth's darkest depths. She bestowed upon him a ball of thread, a fragile lifeline amidst the winding maze. The labyrinth was a labyrinth not only of stone, but of fear, shadows, and silence. Theseus felt each breath thicken with suspense, each step echoing his resolve. Then came the Minotaur, raw, shaking stone walls, fury blazing in eyes red as fire. The battle was savage and desperate. With each clash of sword and horn, the fate of Athens hung in balance. Finally, Theseus struck down the beast, its death a thunderclap that shattered the curse and lifted the city's darkest shadow. Yet heroes' paths are never free of peril, for even triumph often brings sorrow, and the gods' gaze is unrelenting. To the west, under skies brushed with the brilliance of dawn, soared Bellerophon, a hero born of Poseidon's line or mortal blood. It matters not, for his deeds spanned the earth and heavens alike. With Athena's guidance, he tamed Pegasus, magnificent steed with wings like thunderclouds unfurled. Together they flew beyond the reach of men, battling the Chimera, a monstrous fire-breather with the heads and claws of lion, goat, and serpent. Bellerophon conquered beast and foe with courage as his shield, yet the ember of pride smouldered within. Aspiring to reach the heavenly halls of Olympus on Pegasus's wings, he defied the gods and was cast down, a mortal, humbled yet immortal, in story. Thus the world was set ablaze with tales where mortal hearts beat alongside immortal wills, where the bravery of men and the fickle favor of gods shaped legends that would echo through all time. Long after the deeds of great heroes Perseus, Theseus, and Bellerophon, a tale of brotherhood, magic, daring, and destiny began to stir the ancient lands. This is the story of Jason, rightful heir to the throne of Iolcus, and the band of heroes who would birth a legend and sail into myth to claim the golden fleece from the far and fearsome kingdom of Colchis. Jason's birthright was stolen from him. His uncle, King Peleus, ruthlessly seized the throne, driven by a prophecy that foretold his downfall at the hands of a man wearing a single sandal. As fate forged its course, Jason arrived grown to manhood, fulfilling this vision, having lost a sandal while aiding an old woman across a river, a woman who, unseen by mortal eyes, was Hera, queen of the gods, protecting him on this path. Peleus, seeking to rid himself of this threat, sent Jason on a quest thought impossible, to retrieve the golden fleece, a symbol of power and kingship guarded jealously by King Aeetes of Colchis, a land shrouded in mystery, magic, and terror. The call to adventure led Jason to assemble a fellowship unparalleled in legend. Heroes and warriors from across Greece gathered, mighty Hercules, whose strength knew no equal, Orpheus, whose music charmed gods and beasts alike, Atalanta, swift huntress of the wilds, and many others whose courage burned as bright as the sun. Together they built the Argo, a ship blessed by Athena and imbued with a talking prow that whispered wisdom and warnings. Their voyage was a tale as wondrous as the quest itself. They first landed upon the Isle of Lemnos, where women had cast away their men in anger and sorrow, a land ripe with laughter and strange customs. Here the Argonauts stayed and mingled, children born of courage and love, destined to inherit legends of their own. Onward across fierce seas they faced the Symplegades, the clashing rocks, a deadly trap at the mouth of the Black Sea. The rocks crashed with earth-shaking force, threatening to crush any ship that dared pass. With cunning and courage, the Argonauts sailed true, the Argo's prow breaking through the jaws of destruction, feathers flying, destiny forged anew. They encountered many stops upon the shores of Thrace, the lands of the Guys with their giant hands, and the city of the Doliones, where fate's cruel hand led to a tragic night's battle between friends. Losses weighed heavy upon their hearts, tempered by the unbreakable bonds of comradeship. At last, they reached Colchis, a land enveloped in enchantments and guarded by sinister magic. King Aetes was a man of immense power and fearsome will, a sorcerer king who held dominion over the Golden Fleece. Unwilling to part with his prized treasure, he set Jason daunting tasks. First, Jason was to yoke 2 bronze-hooved, fire-breathing bulls, beasts that scorched the earth with every step and breathed flames hotter than the sun. Alone, this seemed a death sentence, but fate delivered Medea, Aetes' daughter, and a sorceress of profound power. Hera had ensured Medea's heart burned for Jason, and her magic would be his shield. Medea gave Jason a potent ointment to anoint his skin and armor, rendering him immune to the searing flames. With steady hands and steady heart, Jason seized the bull's reins and plowed a field, as commanded, earth smoking and burning underfoot. Next came the challenge that would have broken any mortal, the sowing of dragons' teeth into the scorched earth. From these teeth sprang an army of armed warriors born of stone and sorcery who attacked with relentless fury. Jason, warned by Medea, threw a cunning stone among them. The warriors, unable to discern friend from foe, turned upon one another, their battle echoing like thunder until all were vanquished. Though he had passed the tasks, Aetes betrayed his word, refusing to surrender the fleece. His fury was as a storm unleashed. Medea led Jason through the labyrinth of deceit and danger. The fleece hung in a sacred grove, guarded by a sleepless dragon, its scales glittering like molten metal, eyes blazing with eternal fire. Together, Medea and Orpheus weaved spells and melodies, seductive and soothing, lulling the beast into enchanted slumber. With a racing heart, Jason seized the golden fleece, soft, radiant, and powerful. Their escape was a tempest of fury and peril. Aetes unleashed his vengeance, pursuing them through seas and storms. To delay him, Medea committed dark deeds, murdering her brother and scattering his remains to slow their pursuers. Treachery and loyalty danced perilously on the blade's edge. Their journey home led them past the witch, Circe's isle, where enchantments threatened to linger, through the deadly straits guarded by Scylla and Charybdis, monsters of rock and whirlpool, and past the haunting song of the sirens, whose voices promised sweet oblivion. Orpheus's lyre cut through despair, the Argonauts sailing safe through treacherous waters, yet the triumph was bitter. On returning to Iolcus, Jason found his father slain by Peleus, and with Medea's cunning, justice was exacted. But with victory came exile, betrayal, and heartbreak. Jason's union with Medea unraveled in jealousy and tragedy, leading Medea to unleash dark vengeance and flee, leaving Jason alone to contemplate the cost of glory. At the end of his days, Jason sat in silent sorrow beside the rotting hull of the Argo, the ship that had borne heroes to greatness and doom alike. A falling timber ended his life, a mortal's end for a legend whose tale would echo through eternity. The dust of the great Trojan War had settled, but the story of heroes was far from over. Among all who fought beneath the banners of Greece, one name shone with cunning and endurance, beyond battle alone: Odysseus, the wily king of Ithaca. His journey home would become legend, a saga of gods and monsters, of trials that tested not just strength, but heart and wit. After 10 long years defending fortress walls and fighting fierce battles, Odysseus and his men set sail for home, with hope blooming in their hearts. Yet Poseidon, god of the seas, nursed a bitter grudge, for Odysseus had blinded his monstrous son Polyphemus the Cyclops during the war. With storms thick as wrath and waves sharp as swords, Poseidon sought to drown them before their hopes could ripen. The journey began with promise, but soon the seas unfurled their shadows. First came the land of the Cicones, fierce warriors who struck back fiercely at Odysseus's men after their sack of the city. Many heroes fell, a brutal reminder that even victors must pay a price. Then the ship drifted toward the land of the Lotus Eaters, a strange place where time and memory melted. The flower of the lotus was sweet and soft, but its spell was endless sleep and forgetfulness. Some of Odysseus's men ate, forgetting their homes and their quests, dangerous captives to the flower's charm. Only Odysseus, steadfast of heart, dragged them back to the ships, a hero not just of strength, but of will. Next came the island of the Cyclopes, where the legendary giant Polyphemus dwelled. The one-eyed beast trapped Odysseus and his men in a dark cave, planning to feast on them slowly. With wit sharper than sword, Odysseus crafted a daring plan. After intoxicating the Cyclops with strong wine, he and his men drove a flaming stake into the monster's single eye. As Polyphemus howled in pain, Odysseus clung beneath the bellies of his sheep, slipping away unseen, the god's favor dancing in his cunning. But this act of defiance invited Poseidon's wrath anew, who summoned tempests to scatter ships, wreck hopes, and prolong Odysseus's suffering. After sailing dazed through storms, the crew arrived on Aea, island of the sorceress Circe. With a voice like honey and sorcery cruel, Circe turned men into pigs, trancing them into submission. Yet Odysseus, protected by Hermes' magical herb, resisted her power. In awe and love, Circe transformed her captives back, and Odysseus stayed a year, his heart torn between love and longing for home. From Circe's island guidance came to journey to the land of the dead, seeking Tiresias, the blind prophet, whose words would steer Odysseus through fate's tempests. In the realm of shadows, he met spirits of heroes past, including his mother, whose sighs haunted his soul. Tiresias warned of the trials ahead, storms, monstrous beasts, and the wrath of gods for those who stray from fate. Returning from the shadowed realm, Odysseus and his men faced the sirens, singers whose voices lured sailors to doom with promises of secrets and pleasures no mortal could resist. Trusting the wisdom of their king, the men plugged their ears with beeswax as Odysseus, curious and brave, bound himself to the mast, hearing the deadly song but unable to answer its seductive call. But fate was merciless. Next awaited Scylla and Charybdis, the monstrous whirlpool and the six-headed beast, guardians of a narrow strait where death claimed many. Choosing the lesser evil, Odysseus lost 6 men to Scylla's ravenous mouths, a sacrifice that weighed heavily on his soul, a reminder of the cruel costs of leadership. The journey continued to the island of the sun god Helios, where divine cattle grazed in golden pastures. Despite warnings from Tiresias and Odysseus, hunger and recklessness doomed the men to slay the sacred beasts. Zeus's wrath struck hard, a thunderbolt that shattered ships and sank men beneath endless waves, leaving Odysseus the sole survivor on a raft adrift and broken. At last, after days adrift, he washed ashore on the island of Ogygia, home of the nymph Calypso, who fell deeply in love with the weary king and held him captive in enchanted gardens for 7 long years. Though love tempted and delayed him, the gods decreed his release, and with new hope and blessings from Hermes, Odysseus built a raft and ventured once more onto the treacherous sea. The Phaeacians, a noble and kind people, found him wrecked and weary on their shores. There, Odysseus recounted his adventures, the battles and losses, the gods' interference, and his unyielding desire to reclaim his throne and reunite with his beloved Penelope and son Telemachus. Returning in disguise to Ithaca, Odysseus found his home overrun with suitors vying for Penelope's hand, squandering his wealth and disrespecting his household. With cunning and patient planning alongside his loyal son and servant Eumaeus, Odysseus laid a trap. In a contest of bow and skill disguised yet mighty, he revealed his true self and struck down the suitors, reclaiming his home, honor, and family. Odysseus's journey was a testament not only to endurance, but to the unbreakable human spirit, wisdom, resilience, and the longing for home amidst gods, monsters, and the ever-turning wheel of fate. After 2 decades of war, wandering, and trials that tested the very limits of mortal endurance, Odysseus finally stood at the edge of his homeland, Ithaca, an island veiled in mist and memory, waiting for her lost king to return. Yet the home he longed to embrace had changed. His palace was overrun by a crowd of greedy suitors, men of arrogance and excess, who feasted on his wealth and pressed for the hand of his faithful wife, Penelope. Guided by the goddess Athena, wise, fierce, and forever his ally, Odysseus returned cloaked in disguise. The king became a beggar, bent and worn, his glory hidden beneath rags and a veil of quiet patience. His first steps were to the humble hut of Eumaeus, his loyal swineherd, whose heart remained pure and steadfast through years of waiting and watching. There, Odysseus rested and gathered strength, a silent shadow among those who thought him lost forever. Then came a secret, sacred reunion with his son Telemachus, the prince now grown, strong and careful, still seeking his father's fate. Their embrace held the pain of long absence, the hope of future justice. In the guise of beggar, Odysseus entered his own home, where the suitors mocked and scorned him. Antinous, their cruel leader, sneered and threatened, blind to the storm concealed beneath the frail guise. But Odysseus's eyes burned with the fire of destiny. Penelope, sharp and loyal, held her suitors at bay with cleverness. She wove and unwove a shroud in endless days, a test of patience and wit, promising to choose a husband only when the weaving was complete. Time passed, and the suitors grew restless. A secret woven deeply into the fabric of Odysseus and Penelope's love would reveal the truth. When Penelope proposed a contest, a test of strength and skill, to string Odysseus's great bow and shoot an arrow through 12 axe heads, the suitors faltered one by one. When the disguised Odysseus stepped forward, he bent the bow with ease and made the perfect shot. The transformation was swift and terrible. The beggar shed his disguise, the king reclaimed his form, and fury erupted like a tempest. With Telemachus, Eumaeus, the cowherd Philoetius, and Athena at his side, Odysseus struck down the arrogant suitors in a fierce and bloody battle, cleansing the halls of treachery and greed. Yet the reckoning was not over. The families of the slain suitors sought vengeance. At Laertes' farm, a final clash loomed, but once more Athena's divine intervention brought peace, her voice commanding, her presence an unyielding shield. Zeus himself cast a thunderbolt nearby, stunning the combatants into silence. The Ithacans, moved by the gods, laid aside their grievances, pledging loyalty anew. Finally, Odysseus and Penelope shared a reunion, steeped in tears and whispers. Penelope's test, revealing their secret only known to them about their marriage bed, carved from a rooted olive tree, sealed their hearts once more. Peace settled like a gentle dawn over Ithaca. The hero who survived monsters, storms, gods, and temptations found rest and rightful place, king once more, husband, father, and legend made whole. As the flames of the Trojan War faded and the seas settled from Odysseus's arduous journey, the echoes of heroism continued to pulse through ancient Greece. The land was rich with tales of mortals and demigods who faced beasts, gods, and fate itself, heroes whose names would forever mark the tapestry of mythology. One of the most celebrated was Heracles, the mightiest mortal who ever lived. Born of Zeus and the mortal woman Alcmene, Heracles' life was a saga of strength, sorrow, and redemption from birth. Even as an infant, the divine forces shaped him, from strangling serpents sent by Hera's jealousy to performing the 12 labors, impossible tasks set by kings and gods alike. He battled monstrous creatures, the 9-headed Hydra, the Nemean lion whose roar shook mountains, and the terrifying Erymanthian boar. Each feat was a testament to his indomitable will, a struggle not just against physical monsters, but the torment of guilt and rage that clouded his soul. Heracles' story is one of struggle toward immortality, where ultimate valor meets the mysteries of the divine. Another hero, Atalanta, broke the mold of mortal expectation. Raised by wild beasts, she was swift-footed and fierce. Her bravery shone in the hunt for the Caledonian boar, a creature sent by Artemis to ravage the land in divine wrath. Atalanta's arrow struck the beast's heart, earning her a place among heroes. Her journey was one of determination and defiance, culminating in a famous race where the prize was her hand in marriage, won with the aid of golden apples tossed by Hippomenes to distract her fleet feet. Then there was Orpheus, a figure unlike the brawny warriors. His power was in song and sorrow. An Argonaut and lover, Orpheus ventured to the underworld, confronting Hades and Persephone themselves to reclaim his beloved Eurydice. His tale is one of love entwined with fate, and the thin line between hope and despair. The haunting melodies of his lyre still echo in the hearts of mortals. Bellerophon's tale of taming Pegasus and slaying the Chimera blends heroism with caution. His pride before the gods, seeking a place among Olympus, reminds us of mortal limits. Cast down and broken, his story teaches humility alongside courage. Though their legends varied, all these heroes shared a common thread: the endless dance with gods and fate, the bittersweet glory of mortal striving, and the eternal hope that beneath trials lie the seeds of greatness. Their stories, intertwined yet distinct, form the immortal chorus of Greek mythology, a saga of light and shadow, where even gods bend to the raw, pulsating essence of human spirit. Beyond the towering legends of Perseus, Hercules, Jason, and Odysseus, the world of Greek mythology pulses with a multitude of lesser-known heroes and stories, figures who may not command the stage of the grand epics, but whose adventures and fates offer rich and fascinating glimpses into the ancient imagination. One such figure is Daedalus, the master craftsman and inventor, whose ingenuity shaped legendary tales. Daedalus was the architect behind the labyrinth that imprisoned the monstrous Minotaur, a maze so intricate that none who entered could escape. Yet imprisoned himself alongside his son Icarus on the island of Crete by King Minos, Daedalus fashioned wings made of feathers and wax to escape. He warned Icarus not to fly too close to the sun. Sadly, Icarus's youthful hubris led to his waxen wings melting, sending him plummeting into the sea, a tragic reminder of ambition unchecked by wisdom. Then there is the tragic story of Oedipus, whose fate was sealed by prophecy. Born to King Laius and Queen Jocasta of Thebes, Oedipus was doomed to kill his father and marry his mother. In attempts to escape, he unknowingly fulfilled the terrifying destiny. His intelligence solved the riddle of the Sphinx, freeing Thebes but resulting in an incestuous tragedy that brought ruin to his family, demonstrating the inescapable power of fate and the tragic complexity of heroism. The twin brothers Castor and Pollux, also known as the Dioscuri, were mortal and immortal heroes respectively. Castor was known for his skill in horsemanship, Pollux for his prowess in boxing. Their stories intertwine friendship, brotherhood, and sacrifice, as Pollux shared his immortality with his mortal brother, a symbol of enduring bond beyond life and death. The giant brothers, Ottos and Ephialtes, called the Aloade, dared to challenge the gods themselves by attempting to stack mountains to the heavens, a bold act of hubris that ended in their downfall. Their tale warns of the dangers inherent in defying divine authority. Acamas and Demophon, sons of Theseus, made their own marks during the Trojan War and its aftermath. Acamas boldly ventured into the heart of Troy inside the famous wooden horse, while Demophon rescued their grandmother Aethra from servitude, showing the legacy of heroism passed through generations. In the shadows of these tales loom the stories of monstrous beings like Typhon, a terrifying hybrid said to rival even Zeus in power, a symbol of chaos and the ultimate challenge to divine rule. These lesser-known stories, while overshadowed by the grand epics, contribute depth and richness to the tapestry of Greek mythology. They reveal a world where courage is multifaceted, where heroes are flawed, and where even the smallest legend carries the weight of eternal human questions about fate, power, sacrifice, and the quest for meaning. Beyond the towering legends and mighty demigods lie stories of heroes whose tales, though less sung, brim with adventure, tragedy, and lessons that enrich the tapestry of Greek mythology. One such figure is Daedalus, renowned inventor and craftsman whose genius shaped some of mythology's most iconic moments. Trained by the goddess Athena, Daedalus designed the labyrinth that imprisoned the fearsome Minotaur for King Minos of Crete. Yet fate turned cruel when King Minos trapped Daedalus and his son Icarus to keep the secrets of the labyrinth. Ingeniously, Daedalus crafted wings of feathers and wax for their escape, warning Icarus not to fly too close to the sun. But youthful hubris won, and the sun melted the wax, sending Icarus plummeting to his death in the sea, a tragic tale of ambition, caution, and loss that echoes through time. Then there is Oedipus, the tragic hero whose life was a tapestry of prophecy and doom. Born to the royal house of Thebes, he was doomed to kill his father and marry his mother, a fate he desperately tried to escape. But through a cruel twist of destiny, Oedipus fulfilled the prophecy unknowingly, bringing ruin upon himself and his family. His story explores the depths of fate, free will, and human frailty. The tale of the twin brothers Castor and Pollux, the Dioscuri, speaks of brotherly love and sacrifice. Castor was mortal, skilled in horsemanship, Pollux immortal and a fierce boxer. When Castor was killed, Pollux shared his immortality with his brother, creating a bond that transcended life and death, a symbol of eternal brotherhood. Other heroes wandered the edges of legend, like the wild-speeded Atalanta, who challenged her suitors to a race with life-or-death stakes and was famed for her role in hunting the Caledonian boar, and Bellerophon, tamer of Pegasus and slayer of the fire-breathing Chimera, whose tragic fall from grace reminds us of the dangers of hubris. Many smaller but no less fascinating legends survive, entwined with gods, mortals, and monsters in an endless dance of courage, folly, and fate. The breadth of Greek mythology extends beyond the familiar to these hidden stories, each revealing a facet of human nature and divine whimsy, a call to explore myth's vast landscapes with wonder and reverence. In Greek mythology, The world is woven tightly with the threads of mortal lives and divine wills. The gods of Olympus, majestic, jealous, whimsical, and powerful, did not merely watch humanity from afar. They frequently stepped into the mortal realm, shaping destinies, provoking wars, and nurturing love, their capricious hands guiding and sometimes tearing apart human lives. The story of Zeus, king of gods, is steeped in such interactions. Known for his many earthly loves, Zeus often disguised himself to approach mortal women, transforming into a golden shower to visit Danae, a swan for Leda, or even a bull to enchant Europa. These unions produced demigods and heroes like Perseus and Helen, bridging the divine and human worlds. However, these liaisons often stirred tension with Hera, Zeus's wife, whose wrath upon his mortal consorts and their offspring enacted trials as punishing as any monster. A powerful example is the tale of Achilles, son of the sea goddess Thetis and mortal Peleus. Though blessed with near invincibility, Achilles was not immune to divine manipulation. The gods alternately aided and opposed him during the Trojan War, weaving his rage and fate into the larger pattern of the war. He was granted glory, but it was a glory shadowed by an early death, a sacrifice in the harsh calculus of heaven and earth. Gods and goddesses could favor mortals, granting blessings and protection, yet just as often their jealousy or rivalries brought calamity. Aphrodite's protection of Paris and her son Aeneas during Troy's fall contrasts sharply with Artemis's cold vengeance on Hippolytus, illustrating the divine power's diverse and often contradictory influences. Sometimes gods took human form or disguised themselves to interact more directly, influencing battles, seducing mortals, or delivering prophecies cloaked in enigmas. Athena's interventions in the Iliad and Odyssey, deceptive and profound, guided heroes subtly toward fate's fulfillment. Apollo's presence prolonged Troy's siege, his will interwoven into the mortal struggle. Not all divine-mortal relationships ended in tragedy. Some, like those of Dionysus with Ariadne or Apollo with Brancus, wove tales of divine favor and lasting bonds. Yet even these were tinged with complexity, reminding mortals of the fragile line they walked between mortal dreams and divine designs. This interplay of gods and mortals reveals a cosmos where destiny shifts with every divine whim, where mortals strive against overwhelming odds, yet are forever entwined in the drama of the immortal. Here we see the true essence of Greek mythology, a world where gods are passionate, flawed, and deeply entwined with human fate, and where courage, love, and tragedy dance hand in hand beneath the ever-watchful eyes of Olympus. Greek mythology is not only about grand quests and mighty heroes, but also about captivating tales that often go unnoticed, stories of unlikely heroes, tragic lovers, and warnings that reveal much about ancient values and human nature. One such tale is that of Acamas and Demophon, sons of the great hero Theseus. Unlike their famous father, these brothers made their mark quietly, yet boldly, during and after the Trojan War. Acamas was among the brave who sneaked inside the wooden horse that doomed Troy, playing a crucial role in its fall. Demophon showed courage and loyalty by rescuing their grandmother Aethra from servitude, embodying the deep family bonds that sustained heroes beyond the battlefield. Another striking legend is the story of Codrus, the last semi-mythical king of Athens, whose sacrifice saved his city. When an oracle declared Athens would only win a war if its king was killed, Codrus disguised himself and provoked the enemy into killing him, thus fulfilling the prophecy and securing victory. His heroic self-sacrifice is remembered as a symbol of leadership and devotion uncommon among mortals. Romantic and tragic myths also fill the annals. The tale of Alcyone and Ceyx, transformed into birds as a punishment for their arrogance yet destined to be reunited in the skies, gave birth to the phrase halcyon days, symbolizing calm and peace even in winter's midst. The story of Arachne, the gifted weaver who dared to claim her art, greater than that of Athena, ended in transformation and eternal weaving. Athena turned her into a spider, forever spinning webs, a powerful myth about pride, humility, and the gods' intolerance of mortal hubris. The saga of Cadmus, founder of Thebes and brought the alphabet to the Greeks, shows a life rich in adventure and divine favor. His search for his sister Europa, abducted by Zeus, begins a tale of destiny and foundation myths intertwined. These stories, among many others, the Danaides, 50 sisters condemned for a terrible deed on their wedding night, and the tragic love of Echo and Narcissus, enrich Greek mythology with layers of wisdom, warnings, and wonder. They remind us that mythology is not only about the mighty and famous, but the complex, fragile, and often hidden aspects of human existence and divine interaction. The world of Greek mythology is teeming not only with gods and heroes, but also with a stunning variety of mythical beasts and monsters. Many are well known, like the fierce Minotaur, the snake-haired Gorgons, or the sea-dwelling sirens, while others lurk in the shadows of ancient tales, strange and fascinating, embodiments of nature's power and the fears of humankind. At the heart of this monstrous realm stands Typhon, the father of all monsters. Typhon was born of Gaia and Tartarus, a monstrous titan with countless heads, some say 100 dragon heads, with eyes flashing fire, and a roar that rocked the earth and sky. His lower body was a mass of coiling serpentine coils, hissing and twisting with life. Even the Olympian gods feared his might when he challenged their reign. Zeus struck him down with his lightning bolts, imprisoning Typhon beneath Mount Etna, where his fury is said to cause the mountain's fiery eruptions. His mate, Echidna, called the Mother of Monsters, bore many of myth's fiercest beasts. Half woman, half serpent, Echidna lived in shadowed caves deep beneath the earth. From her came the terrifying Chimera, a lion's head, goat's body, and serpent's tail, breathing fire and havoc. The Nemean lion, whose golden fur was impervious to weapons, and who terrorized the lands until defeated by Heracles. And the Sphinx, whose riddles tested the wits and lives of all who passed. Among other fearsome Dracini, female dragon-like monsters, were Scylla, once a beautiful nymph transformed into a multi-headed beast, feeding on sailors navigating the narrow straits marked by her place opposite the deadly whirlpool Charybdis, a female monster capable of swallowing entire ships in her watery maw. The sirens, with their enchanting voices, lured hapless sailors to their doom on jagged rocks. Their song was irresistible, promising secrets and pleasures no mortal could resist. Odysseus famously resisted by having his sailors plug their ears with wax and binding himself to the mast, cherishing the deadly melody without succumbing. Lurking in deserts and wild places were rarer creatures like Amphisbaena, a two-headed serpent born from drops of Medusa's blood, whose gaze could see through the darkest night, and the Empusa, spectral and malevolent followers of Hecate, capable of shape-shifting and terrorizing mortals. The Ophiutorus, part bull and part serpent, was said to have the power to kill a god if its entrails were burned, a secret coveted by the Titans and Olympians alike. Each creature, whether guardian or predator, epitomizes ancient fears and questions about power, nature, and survival. They are not mere monsters, but forces woven into the cosmic order, battling heroes and gods, shaping myths that warn, inspire, and enrapture. These creatures populate the wild, the unknown, and the dangerous, challenging heroes like Heracles, Perseus, and Odysseus, testing their courage and wit, and forever reminding mortals of their fragile place amid gods and monsters. Greek mythology is more than a collection of stories. It is a vast, intricate web of divine families where celestial beings are bound by complex genealogies, full of alliances, rivalries, love, and power. To understand the sweeping sagas of gods and mortals, one must begin with the family trees that shape the cosmos. At the dawn of everything was chaos, the gaping void from which the primordial entities emerged. From chaos came Gaia, Earth itself, mother and foundation of life, and Uranus, the sky, her counterpart and consort. Together, Gaia and Uranus birthed the first divine generation, the Titans, mighty beings who ruled the cosmos before the Olympians. Among the Titans were Cronus and Rhea, whose story shapes much of Greek mythology. Cronus overthrew his father Uranus, only to be later overthrown by his own son, Zeus. A cycle of power struggles echoed throughout divine history. Cronus and Rhea bore children who became the first Olympian gods: Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, Hera, Demeter, and Hestia, powerful beings who would rule from Mount Olympus. The genealogies reveal a complex network of divine relationships. For instance, Coeus and Phoebe, Titans aligned with intellect and prophecy, gave birth to Leto and Asteria. Leto became mother to Apollo and Artemis, two of the most revered Olympians. Their stories of light, music, the hunt, and the moon echo across mythic ages. Iapetus, another Titan, fathered children with the Oceanid Clymene, producing Atlas, condemned to hold up the sky. Prometheus, the firebringer and benefactor of mankind. Epimetheus, whose actions brought Pandora's box to humanity. And Menoetius, a figure of rashness and divine punishment. The ocean's expanse was ruled by Oceanus and his spouse Tethys, divine ancestors of many river gods and nymphs, creating a vast family that connected gods, nature, and mortals. The Olympians, led by Zeus, extend the divine family with numerous offspring, both divine and mortal. Zeus himself fathered many gods and heroes, both through divine consorts like Hera and Leto, and mortal women such as Alcmene, mother of Hercules, and Danae, mother of Perseus. This fertile lineage mingled divine power with mortal destiny, birthing legendary demigods who walked between worlds. Other gods, like Dionysus, the god of wine and revelry, came from complex circumstances, celebrated after trials for admission to Olympus. Hestia, goddess of hearth and home, held sacred status despite stepping down from the 12 Olympians to allow Dionysus's rise, revealing the fluidity and complexity of divine roles. Detailed divine families exhibit tangled, sometimes incestuous relations, rivalries, and alliances that color myths with intrigue, romance, and drama. The stories of gods' births, unions, and conflicts reflect the eternal themes of power, love, creation, and destruction. Understanding these divine families offers rich context to mythic tales, revealing how gods' personal relationships shaped mortal fate and cosmic order. The foundation of Greek mythology rests upon the vast pantheon of deities whose relationships, births, and conflicts shaped the cosmos and the fate of mortals. To truly grasp their stories, one must journey through the sprawling family tree that begins with the primordial forces and culminates in the mighty Olympians who ruled Mount Olympus. At the very beginning, before the world had form, there existed chaos, the gaping void from which emerged Gaia, the earth, Tartarus, the abyss beneath the earth, Eros, the force of love and procreation, Nyx, the night, and Erebus, darkness. Gaia, called Mother Earth, gave birth without mate to Uranus, the sky, Aurea, the mountains, and Pontus, the sea. The union of Gaia and Uranus produced the first generation of deities, the Titans, giant beings of great power. Cronus, time and harvest. Rhea, fertility and motherhood. Oceanus, the ocean. Hyperion, light. Theia, light and brilliance. Coeus, intellect. Creus, constellation. Iapetus, mortality. Mnemosyne, memory. Themis, law and order. Phoebe, prophecy. And Tethys, waters. Cronus, the youngest and most ambitious Titan, overthrew Uranus and assumed control of the cosmos, ruling the golden age of mankind. Fearful of a prophecy that one of his children would overthrow him, Cronus swallowed each newborn. However, Rhea, his sister and consort, hid the youngest child, Zeus, raising him in secret. Zeus grew strong, freed his swallowed siblings, Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades and Poseidon, and waged the great Titanomachy, the war between Titans and Olympians. Victorious, the Olympians cast the Titans into Tartarus, and Zeus established the new order of gods reigning on Mount Olympus. The family tree extends with numerous offshoots. Zeus fathered gods and mortals by many consorts, shaping heroes like Perseus, Heracles, and Helen. Poseidon ruled the seas, and many children bridged divine and mortal realms. Hades ruled the underworld, presiding over the dead with a stern but just hand. Gods like Athena, born fully armored from Zeus's forehead, represented wisdom and war. Apollo and Artemis, children of Zeus and Leto, embodied light and the hunt. Hermes, the messenger, was known for his cunning and speed, while Aphrodite, sprung from sea foam or born of Uranus's severed genitals, brought love and seduction. The family tree encompasses nymphs, river gods, and countless minor deities who influence the world's natural and social order. These divine genealogies are complex, woven with consanguineous unions, rivalry, love, revolt, and reconciliation. They provide the backdrop for countless myths where divine actions ripple into mortal affairs, showing how fate's threads weave through gods and men alike. Understanding these interlinking branches opens a window into the rich, mythic world of Greek antiquity, inviting listeners to explore the grandest stories born from these divine bloodlines. At the dawn of all things, the cosmos emerged from chaos, a gaping void of potential and darkness. From this primordial nothingness rose Gaia, Mother Earth, vast and nurturing, paired with Uranus, the embodiment of the sky. Their union gave birth to the first divine children, the 12 Titans, the Cyclopes, and the 100-handers, beings of colossal power. But Uranus, fearing his children's strength, imprisoned them within Gaia's depths, causing her great pain. To free her offspring and alter the cosmic order, Gaia forged a mighty adamantine sickle, entrusting it to her youngest Titan son Cronus. In a volcanic act of rebellion, Cronus ambushed Uranus, castrated him, and cast his severed genitals into the sea, from which the goddess Aphrodite was born, a symbol of beauty born from violence. Cronus then assumed rule over the universe with the Titans, ushering in a golden age. Yet a prophecy foretold he would be overthrown by his own child. To thwart fate, Cronus swallowed each child of his wife Rhea as they were born: Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon. When Zeus was born, Rhea, aided by Gaia, hid him in a cave on Mount Aigaion in Crete, giving Cronus a stone wrapped in newborns swaddling to deceive him. Raised in secret, Zeus grew strong and cunning. With the aid of the Oceanid Metis, he forced Cronus to disgorge his siblings, beginning the legendary Titanomachy, the War of the Titans. In this great cosmic battle, Zeus led his siblings, the Cyclopes, and the 100-handers against the Titans. Lightning bolts forged by the Cyclopes became Zeus's weapon of choice, while the 100-handers unleashed torrents of destruction. After a decisive victory, the Titans were imprisoned in Tartarus, the deep abyss beneath the earth, and Zeus became the ruler of the cosmos, establishing the reign of the Olympian gods. His brothers were given dominion over realms, Poseidon the seas, Hades the underworld, while the other Olympians settled Mount Olympus. This divine succession myth, detailed in Hesiod's Theogony, reflects the ancient Greek understanding of power, legitimacy and change, where older orders are swept away by newer ones, but where Zeus's reign embodies a new permanence. Zeus broke the previous cycle of overthrow by forging alliances, ruling with both strength and wisdom, and fathering gods and heroes to maintain divine order. His marriage to Hera, despite its storms, cemented the Olympian family, while his numerous lovers, goddesses and mortals alike, brought forth many demigods who bridged heaven and earth. The succession also involved profound conflicts between male and female powers, with goddesses like Metis and Rhea playing pivotal roles in the shaping of destiny. Zeus even birthed Athena from his forehead, symbolizing a union of birthright, wisdom, and power without challenge. Through these family dynamics, Greek mythology offers rich narratives about origins, authority, and the delicate balance between chaos and order from the universe's very birth to the celestial kingdom. Atop the mighty heights of Mount Olympus, the 12 supreme deities, known as the Olympians, reigned over the cosmos, weaving their wills into the destinies of gods and mortals alike. Their stories form the heart of Greek mythology, a family of divine beings embodying the forces of nature, human virtues, and flaws. Zeus, the all-powerful king, wielded thunderbolts forged by the Cyclopes. His rule was marked by justice and authority, but also by passionate affairs that birthed heroes and divine offspring who would shape the world. Zeus governed the sky and weather, his lightning strikes echoing his temper and might. Hera, queen and goddess of marriage, protected women and upheld the sanctity of matrimony. Her fierce jealousy, especially regarding Zeus's numerous lovers, led her to persecute many mortals. Yet her dignity and power earned her wide reverence. Poseidon, god of the sea, earthquakes and horses, ruled the oceans with his trident, shaping the waves and storms. His temper was as tempestuous as the sea, bringing both calm and fury. Poseidon's offspring included sea creatures, heroes, and many creatures of myth. Demeter, goddess of harvest and fertility, ensured the earth's bounty. Her grief over the abduction of her daughter Persephone to the underworld created the cycle of seasons, a myth embodying life, death, and rebirth. Athena, born fully armed from Zeus's forehead, was the goddess of wisdom, war strategy, and crafts. Fierce yet fair, she guided heroes like Odysseus and Perseus, symbolizing intellect and courage intertwined. Apollo, god of music, prophecy, healing, and the sun radiated beauty and power. His oracle at Delphi was sacred, a channel to divine will. Apollo's lyre soothed and inspired, while his arrows could bring sudden death. Artemis, twin sister of Apollo and goddess of the hunt and moon, fiercely protected wilderness and women. She was a guardian of young children and a symbol of chastity and independence. Ares, god of war, embodied the brutal and chaotic aspects of battle. Unlike Athena's strategic war wisdom, Ares represented fury and bloodlust, beloved by few yet essential in the pantheon's balance. Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty, had the power to inspire passion or conflict among gods and mortals. Born from sea foam, she ensnared gods and heroes alike, often causing both joy and turmoil. Hephaestus, god of fire and blacksmiths, forged weapons and magnificent creations for gods and heroes. Despite his skill, he was often mocked for his deformity and rejected by Hera. Hermes, messenger god, was the patron of travelers, thieves, and commerce. Agile and cunning, he guided souls to Hades and relayed messages between gods and mortals. The 12th Olympian seat went to either Hestia, goddess of the hearth and home, symbolizing domestic harmony, or Dionysus, the god of wine, ecstasy, and theatre, who represented joy and the chaos of life's pleasures. These 12 gods lived in a celestial palace crowned by golden halls, feasting on ambrosia and nectar, yet rarely removed from mortal affairs. Their divine interactions shaped human fate, infused nature with mythic power, and left an enduring legacy of stories exploring the breadth of human experience, love, war, jealousy, wisdom, and redemption. The pantheon of Olympian gods and goddesses who dwelled atop Mount Olympus represents the core of Greek mythology. Their powers, personalities, loves, rivalries, and interventions in mortal lives weave a complex tapestry that not only shaped ancient Greek beliefs but also still resonates through stories told today. At the pinnacle stood Zeus, the king of the gods and ruler of sky and thunder. Born youngest to the Titans, Cronus and Rhea, Zeus grew mighty enough to overthrow his father and establish a new divine order. His domain was the heavens and earth. With his thunderbolt he commanded storms and justice. Yet, for all his power, Zeus's life was marked by passionate affairs with goddesses and mortal women alike. His numerous liaisons produced generations of demigods and heroes, including Perseus, Heracles, and Helen of Troy, entwining divine influence deeply into human fate. Yet these affairs also incurred the wrath of his wife and sister, Hera, whose jealousy and vengeance became legendary. Hera, queen of the gods, goddess of marriage and protector of women, ruled beside Zeus with regal dignity. Her stories often involve fierce protection of her divine marriage and bitter conflicts with Zeus's lovers and offspring. Despite this, Hera remained a powerful deity, embodying the sanctity and struggles of marriage, revered and feared. Her presence was felt in the rites of childbirth and the sanctuaries dedicated to her across the ancient world. Athena, born fully armed from the forehead of Zeus, represented wisdom, strategic warfare, and craftsmanship. Unlike Ares, who embodied the brutal chaos of war, Athena championed skill, courage, and diplomacy on the battlefield. She was a protector of cities, notably Athens, and a guide to famous heroes such as Odysseus and Perseus. Her symbols, owl, olive tree, and shield, embodied knowledge, peace, and protection. Apollo, shining god of music, prophecy, healing, and the sun, radiated brilliance and talent. His oracles were coveted sources of divine insight. With his golden lyre, Apollo inspired poets and musicians alike, while his arrows could bring swift death or healing. His twin sister, Artemis, goddess of the hunt, wilderness, and moon, pursued the wilds with unyielding independence, a protector of women and children, embodying both nurturing and deadly aspects. Ares, the fierce god of war, was feared and often disliked for his bloodlust and destruction, standing in contrast to Athena's calculated valor. Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty, wielded unmatched power over desire, sparking passion and chaos among gods and mortals. Hephaestus, master blacksmith, forged divine weapons and lived a life marked by rejection and triumph through craft. Hermes, fleet-footed messenger and god of travelers, was a trickster and mediator, guiding souls to the underworld. Finally, Hestia, goddess of the hearth, symbolized the sacred flame of home and family, or alternately, Dionysus, god of wine and ecstasy, represented the liberating and chaotic forces of life. Together these Olympians intertwined with mythic heroes and mortals to create a rich narrative of power, love, war, fate, and redemption. Their stories reveal gods who were far from perfect, flawed, passionate, prone to jealousy and mercy, mirroring the complexities of humanity itself.